In my previous video, I was talking to you about how you can research for dividend paying ETFs. I was showing you my whole strategy, how I do it, and the criteria that I use was that the stock has to appreciate, and that's the first criteria, because unless you invest a lot of money, like millions of dollars, and you want to live off the dividends that you invest, then maybe your criteria should be looking for dividend yield first and then looking for stock appreciation. But for my scenario, the first thing that I'm looking for is the stock appreciation, because it's going to be more important to me than the dividend yield, because with what I have, I honestly cannot live off the dividends, and maybe I will never will, but who knows. We're just gonna continue investing over time and we'll see where it goes. But the most important thing, of course, was the stock appreciation and low expense ratio, because let's say if you invest over a period of 15 to 20 years and over time your portfolio grows to significant numbers, such as the same $1 million, let's say, then 1% is going to cost you $10,000 a year, while 0.06% expense ratio on some of them is going to cost you only $600. And that's over a $9,000 difference. And for some people, that might be living expenses for like 2 to 3 months. So that's a significant amount of money. And that's something you should also take into consideration. So looking at mainly these three criteria and then looking at the portfolios that they have as well, but just a quick glance, nothing too much, because for the most part, if the portfolio has been performing, the stock has been performing well, most likely they have good companies within their portfolio. But if you have any personal preference and you just want to take a quick look, then that's what you can do as well. So by the end of my last video, I came up with a list of 15 dividend paying ETFs that has been showing consistent growth over the past 10 years and that have been paying between 2 and 4% dividend yield. And today we're going to look at those, and I'm going to pick 3 dividend ETFs, because that's what I promised in my previous video, that I'm going to pick 3 dividend ETFs that I'm personally going to invest into over the course of the next several months, because I think that right now is a really good time to invest. And if you want to start investing, save your money and start investing now. I don't know if the market is going to go significantly down over the next couple of months, but most likely it's just going to be fluctuating, because we're going to get new CPI numbers, we're going to get the GDP report for the Q3, so we're going to see what it's going to lead to. But for now, the market's going to fluctuate, and probably if you're going to do dollar cost averaging, it's going to be a good strategy for you to start investing. And since you're investing in the dividend paying ETF, this is like basically investing in an index fund, and this is one of the most safest way to invest, because you basically put your money and you can forget about it, just keep adding to it every month or every 2 months or whatever period you choose for yourself to invest. Then set that period and constantly invest money into it in dollar cost average, and that way you're never going to be in the loss, because these ETFs has been growing over the past 10 years at least, and most of them has been growing since they started, which some of them has started like almost 20 years ago. So first, let's take a look at the list that I came up with in my previous video. Here we have 15 dividend paying ETFs that have been showing consistent growth over the past 10 years and that have been paying between 2 and 4% dividend yield annually. So as you can see, I already have this 4 ETF highlighted, and the reason I highlighted those is because these are all energy ETFs, and they're very similar. Even if you look at my comments, the comment is exactly the same for all 4 of them, and that's because all their major holdings are basically the same. So I'm going to hide them for now, and we're going to pick one dividend ETF later on, and I'm going to explain why I'm picking one out of those 4. So now that I've filtered out these 11 ETF that are not related to energy sector or somewhat related, but they're mainly like ETFs that invest in large companies or blue chip stocks, so we're going to go over 11 ETFs, and I'm gonna pick 2 ETFs that I'm personally going to invest to. So let's go ahead and start with the SPYD, and as you can see, they're mainly filtered by the dividend yield. So the top 6 offer between 3 and 4% dividend yield, and the bottom 5 offer between 2 and 3% dividend yield. And let's take a look. The first ones that I selected, I'm gonna go to Google Finance, and over here I have the first 5 because Google Finance only let me compare 5 of them. And what I'm looking here for is whether they've been showing growth. And as you know, I've already selected the ones that has been showing stock growth over the period of the past several years, or at least since they started. And if we look at this, since they started, some of them grew up like over 100%, which is the the iShares HDV, but it would be unfair comparison for me to compare the max. I can just take a look at it and see how they've been doing over the longer period of time. But if I want to compare apples to apples, I probably should select a smaller range. So let's see 5 years. Yeah, as you can see, all of them has been out there for at least 5 years. And as you can see that over the period of the last 5 years, they hasn't been losing any value. They've been showing consistent growth, and SPYD grew up almost 17%, DHS 22%, then SPHD grew up 11% or 12%, FDL grew 27.29%, and HDV grew 21.48%. So they all have been showing some growth, and let me remind you that these are the most high paying dividend ETFs out there, and for SPYD you can get 4%. So if your only goal is to get as much dividends as possible every quarter or every month, these are the ones that I will go for. But I'm personally not going to look at any of those, because I'm going to look at the next 5, and the next 5 is the ones that I'm going to pick 2 ETFs from. So let's go ahead and see. So here we have DVY from BlackRock, we have Schwab, SCHD, we also have SDY from State Street, we have VYM from Vanguard, and we have iShares ILCV from BlackRock. So most of these portfolios has been longer in the market than the previous 5, and if we look at the price action over the past 5 years, we can see that this price action is much better than the previous 5. So the previous 5 that we looked at, they've only been showing, let's see, no more than 30%. Most of them around 20%, but all of these are showing at least 30% or more. And the one that stands out for me especially is the Schwab SCHD, that grew over 63% in the past 5 years. That's almost double than any of this shown in the past 5 years. And the other one is SDY from State Street, which shown 42%. And we also have VYM, which is an all-time favorite. It has a huge portfolio of 444 stocks that they hold in their portfolio, and they grew over 34%. And before I forget, let me show you IMCV, which is the iShare Morningstar Mid Cap ETF from BlackRock. Over the period of almost 20 years, the portfolio grew 216%, but if we look at the 5-year period, it grew almost 30%. So it's similar to these 5 that we're looking at, but not doing as well. And from this, I can already tell what stands out for me. This is SCHD, SDY, and VYM, because VYM is a safe bet, and if you can guess already, I'm probably gonna pick VYM as one of my portfolios, because VYM has been doing great over the past few years. You're gonna get 2.8% currently if you purchase the stock. You're gonna get a very low expense ratio of 0.06%, and the price of the stock is only $105 at the moment. And they have, as I mentioned, 444 stocks in their portfolio, and that's one of the main reasons why I pick it. And most of them are blue chip stocks such as Exxon, JP Morgan, Chevron, Home Depot, and it's been showing good growth. So they're paying you 2.8%, and they're also growing 34% in over the past 5 years, which is great. And my next pick, you might have probably guessed it as well, is going to be SCHD, and the reason for that is that it's been showing significant growth over the past 5 years. We can see that it's 63%, and the portfolio is also paying you about 2.7%, which is very similar to VYM. They have the same expense ratio as VYM, which is 0.06%, and the price is only $74. So this is a really good stock, in my opinion, to purchase and to hold as a dividend paying ETF. So SCHD is going to be my personal choice, and if we look at the portfolio that they have mainly large companies, most of them blue chip stocks, and they don't have that many holdings. They have only 102 holdings compared to VYM, and 92% of them are large stocks. And they have significant amounts allocated to all these stocks. As you can see, we have 4.60% to Texas Instruments, 4.42% of PepsiCo, 4.27% to Home Depot, Cisco, and they comprise a huge amount of their portfolio, and that's why I think the portfolio has been doing so well, and it's probably continued to do so, even though, remember that the previous results, don't ever indicate that the ETF or stock is going to perform just as well in the future, but I think it's a pretty safe bet to assume so. Alright, now that we're done picking 2 ETFs, as I mentioned, we're going to go ahead and pick one ETF from the energy sector. And the reason I think the energy sector is going to do well, because during the times like this, when the bear market, energy sector typically do well because the prices are going higher for gas and the energy prices are going higher in general. Usually the stocks like this, they fluctuate a lot, but over the period of time, they all have been showing consistent growth. And if we look at the stock chart for these ETFs, we can see that over the past 5 years, they grew at least 36 to 38%. And if you look at the chart, actually, that looks very identical. You can barely tell the difference, and that's when I said that these ETFs basically hold the same energy stocks in their portfolio. So if we look at the overall stock performance, we can see the difference, but that's only because some of them started earlier than others, and over the longer period of time, of course, they calculate the growth over the whole period of time. That's why you see these differences in the growth. But over the past 5 years, it's pretty much identical. So if I look at it, and we can already see that one of them stands out for me because it has a slightly higher expense ratio, which is IDU. It has 41%, so I can exclude that one. And I'm not going to look at the actual dividend yield because the actual dividend yield is pretty much identical. I'm not going to look at the expense ratio because they're almost the same, and I'm just going to go ahead and pick the XLU. And the reason I'm picking the XLU is because XLU is from State Street, and I already have in my portfolio Vanguard ETF, and I have Schwab ETF, and now I'm just gonna add the State Street to add some type of diversification as well. It's not necessary, but I'm doing it because that's my personal preference. And there you have it. Here's my 3 dividend ETF that I'm personally going to invest over the period of the next several months. You can agree with me or you can pick something else. And by the way, this spreadsheet, I'm going to leave the link down in the description below so you can go ahead and play with it, or set your own criteria, maybe pull the data for any other years or research any other dividend yields. Maybe you don't care about the stock growth so much. Maybe you, whatever criteria you have, I don't know, honestly. And I'm just going to leave the link down in the description below so you can make a copy, because you won't be able to edit the original, but you can make a copy and you can play with it and set your own numbers, and I hope it's going to be helpful for you. And right now it's probably one of the best times to start because we're in the bear market right now, and I'm pretty sure that in several years we're going to see new highs both in stock market and crypto market. So stay tuned with my videos, and I'm going to keep you updating on the latest news, how to research for dividend ETFs, how to research for stocks, and how to research for crypto. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up to help YouTube algorithm so more people can see it. And if you want to see more stuff like this, then please subscribe to my channel down below and hit notification bell to get notified next time a new video comes out. And I'll see you all in the next one.